Okay, this video is called How to Be a Prolific Writer. I'll just first of all show you a bunch of my books just so you can see that I've written a whole bunch of books, around 20 or something. I lost count because some of them have different versions. Some of them are on audiobook as well or Kindle as well and all that sort of stuff. Other ones were printed and bound in different ways. So anyways, quick medical Spanish. I wrote that a long time ago before my Spanish was actually that good. I did that with my mom and audio cassettes. Medical Student's Guide to Top Board Scores. The dean of my medical school wrote a foreword for that. I really liked him. That was Dr. William Wallace. And he was a black guy, but man, he was very nice and his heart was in the right place. He did a lot of good things and he was nice to me. I appreciated that. He got a little pissed off at me for doing my residency at Northwestern instead of Harvard. He felt that I was being lazy. I did it because I was taking care of my mother. Okay, she was sick with cancer at the time in Chicago area. Okay, straight A at Stanford on to Harvard, the student version. That shorter version is better for like high school and college students. A more serious person could take on the bigger version over here. It's about twice as long. And then this is me as a surgery training course. Here, as I wrote the textbook of interventional radiology, top 100 procedures with this company. Emersys Elsevier was the best radiology publishing company. It was translated into other languages, including Spanish there. My favorite series of books is I wrote a trilogy, starting out with A Tale of Two Toes and a Hot Tub. And that was sort of a parody spoof of Jonathan Swift book about a hot tub that was sort of a joke about religions, but it wasn't about religion at all. It was all about patience. And that's actually, a lot of people think that's the funniest book I've ever written. I've had a lot of male doctor friends just tell me that was the funniest book they ever read in their life. And also, I know some female doctors that read it. And the female doctors, they look at me and they just start laughing at me because they think that book was so funny. Hot topics with clinical, because basically it's all the jokes that I came across in my imaging surgery guided days, interventional radiology days. Hot topics in nutrition with clinical correlation, more of the same but a little more serious, and then Journey to Optimal Health. I thought those books were really about my best writing ever. The only thing is I didn't know how to draw on a computer at the time I made those books, and that's why I've continued to write more about those things. Plus, I've learned more since then. Ischemic spine, most common cause of back pain. I wrote that one because to explain the spine, all the spine textbooks stink, and my ideas on the spine could not get published in the medical journal. I've been kind of pissed off that in medicine, the smarter you get, the more the system hates you. The system is based on generating money, and it does not like smart doctors who change a paradigm. That is not welcome. The big players who run the system are making a lot of money off the common paradigm. So a smart doctor comes along and can improve it, and they're like, do we make money off this? If we don't make money off of this, then shut up. They have no interest in it. And it's been my frustration that, I sort of was sad when I was younger because I got injured and hurt my wrestling career, and I wanted to have a great medical or scientific career. And I got to the point where I can see things in innovative ways that improve things for patients, but no one cares. It's weird, but healthcare is a weird business. It's all about making as much money as you can off the patient, and the higher you move up to the levels, the more absolute contempt one sees for the patients. Big pharma, they're making their money, and they don't want any new ideas coming in unless it makes money for them. There's a tremendous blockage of knowledge in medicine. It's like unbelievable, and it comes down to the simple quote. You match the ill to the pill and you send the bill, you make money. On the other hand, if you cure a patient, you lose a customer. That's bad for business. It does not want to cure the patients. It's bizarre, but that's a true thing. Okay, and it hates people like me, geniuses who can know how to make things better. It does not want people like me talking. Basically, if I had to say what is the message that conventional medicine has sent to me, it's like, shut up, smarty pants, and don't talk too much or we'll make your life worse. That's kind of the message I've gotten from conventional medicine. Okay, I wrote this book, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes, because I've collected quotes ever since I was in my 20s, and I have tons of them. That book is about 700 pages, but I got thousands of them, and I only put the best quotes into that book, but I also use it as a notebook. It helps me to remember historical events and biographies. I studied all the geniuses, as many of the great men as I could of history, etc. This one, Rhyme, Rhetoric, and Logic, came out of me wanting to become a better writer, because I had some friends that were lawyers and stuff like that, and when I wrote my first early books, they would tease me about the writing. I got in the habit then of self-publishing books because it's so much faster. I work a lot. I work full-time as a clinical physician. I know tons of doctors, and out of all the doctors I know, only one of them wrote a a vascular surgery, a cardiology and peripheral vascular disease book. And I mean, I know other doctors have written books and stuff, but I'm telling you, it's rare for a doctor to write a book. Okay. Poor Man's Way to Prevent Dementia and Raise IQ. It's like the best book ever written on the brain. I know it. I know the Ivy League textbooks, and they suck. Okay. Poor Man's Way to Fight Cancer. Best book ever written on cancer. I mean, there's other good ones that come at it from a different angle, and they're very good. But these are my coaches, by the way. This is Dave Schultz, world and Olympic champion, and Mark Schultz, world and Olympic champion. And they were great to me. I learned so much from them. I learned more from them than any of my professors at Stanford. And here was one of my more recent book, Medical Reformation, Vegan Renaissance Bible. And basically, I rewrote all the internal medicine subspecialty textbooks because they stink. And they all stink because they don't talk about nutrition, epidemiology, and toxicology. And it kind of made me sad when I was a young medical student and a resident. I really looked up to these books, and the big textbooks of internal medicine, Harrison's and Cecil's. Now I think they're a joke. I think they're a disgrace. They stink. They suck. Okay. And then the best Christian art book. All the art books, in my opinion, almost all of them are kind of the same. I like the specialty books where they just pick one artist and they show all that artist's work. Those ones are really good. But most of the general survey art books, the same old stuff. They start out with a cave painting, drawing, a fat female fertility goddess, a bunch of Byzantine stuff, then some good art in the middle, and then end with a bunch of modern art crap, and they pretend it's real. And that's why almost everything that comes out of professional, university, conventional institutions stinks, because most conventional people, perhaps to keep their job, they all conform to whatever's the latest trend of BS. And, how can you take somebody seriously if they tell you that they don't know the difference between a man and a woman? Okay, a man is a Johnson, a woman is a Virginia. That's been known for a long time. And if you can't confidently say that, then how can you say anything useful about anything? I mean, then you're a mental wimp and you suck, okay? Here's just a bunch of other books. And I wrote a bunch of other ones too, but I'm just giving you the sense. Okay, now I'm going to, some of the viewers had asked me, how do I write so many books? What's the key to writing a book? How does one do it? So I'd say, first of all, study a topic in great detail so you know the book, you know the topic pretty well. You have to believe in your heart that you know the subject well enough to say something useful and relatively unique about it. Otherwise, why bother? Okay? And a lot of my books, this is an excerpt in part from one of my books, is I'll write things kind of like Plato did in Plato's Republic, and he wanted to be a playwright. So I'd have a bunch of people talking to each other. And I love the Grand Inquisitor from Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. So I would sometimes have him question me. So he'll say, how do you write so many books? And I use the row your boat technique. I'm always reading a lot. I always listen to about one book a week in the car while I'm commuting to work. I read about one book a week in the bathroom, my magic bathroom. And then I often watch academic medical videos during my dinner, for example. So I get through the equivalent of at least about 3 books a week. And then when I'm working as a clinical doctor, if I see an interesting case, I look it up. I have conversations with my doctor friends. That's my favorite part of being a doctor, is talking to my doctor friends. There's other good things about it too. I meet a lot of nice people in the hospitals who I like. A lot of it's just cranking out billing codes. That's the main part of it, and that's kind of boring. I've done it so much, I'm tired of that. Okay, but anyways, what are the secrets of writing? On my day off, I'll go to bed early the night before if possible. I wake up early and I do my challenging writing, new material, as soon as I wake up. I don't do anything else. I don't exercise. I don't eat, nothing. I just sit in my chair and I start cranking out the book. Because your cognitive function is best right when you wake up, because your brain was cleaned overnight by the lymphatic system, whereby the blood-brain barrier permeability is increased and the neurons dump out their waste product and they're rinsed away by the cerebral spinal fluid. So you are smartest in the morning. When does an animal need to be smart? When it's hungry in the morning after you break fast. You haven't eaten all overnight. At night, after you eat a meal, you're stupid, so it's not a good time to write. In the morning, you're hungry. I don't eat any breakfast. I just sit down and work. And so I will crank out my new book until anywhere from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then after that, early in the afternoon, I'll work on, the next book. Usually, when I'm doing the original material, that's the real challenge, so I want to be at my best. A lot of times, I'm sort of accumulating information for the next book, and I'll do that in the afternoon. In the evening, I'll maybe watch a video that might be part of a future project or something. So I'm always learning and accumulating new information. It's sort of like my brain needs to eat information more than my stomach needs to eat food. And I enjoy doing this. I don't know. I think I was sort of born to do this, so I enjoy it. And at one time, right when this whole, you know what situation, infection situation arose, nobody knew how many people were going to live or die. If you look at the plagues in, Italy and something, a third of the population would die or something. So I had like 6 books in my head I wanted to write that year. So what I did was I decided I was going to try to have Isaac Newton Anno Mirabilis, a miracle year where he discovered calculus, optics, and a whole bunch of other stuff in one year, the fundamental laws of mechanics. So what I said is I basically decided, I didn't even need my cell phone. I kind of hated it, and I had almost never used it anyways. So I decided to not even carry it. I decided to not do any social media unless I absolutely had to. And I just, because I already had rough drafts for chapters written, and I had all this information sort of sitting there, and I decided to put it all together. So in one year, by just going to bed early, waking up early, and then all my free time I spent writing books. I come home from work, do whatever I had to learn to prepare for the next day on my day off, get up in the morning and crank. And I have the ability to just crank all day. I can crank out and work pretty intensely till nighttime. And I don't have much distracting me because my children are grown up. My wife, I get along with her, but I don't really have much to do with her. It's like I don't spend much time with her at all. I could easily not talk to her for a week and it wouldn't change anything. And so I mention that because I've made that time that when I'm not at work, I do have time to work on the books. I'll also exercise. And if somebody needs me, I'm there for them. Like, sometimes people will have a sick family member. They'll bring them over to talk to me. And I'll do whatever I can to help them. But I don't have a lot of social demands, which is in some ways, it's nice because it gives me more time to write. On the other hand, it's almost bizarre to me. Like when you get great at wrestling or at sports, everybody likes you. But it's weird in medicine. I'm great. I'm a great doctor. I'm an academic medical genius. But the more better I get, the more people hate me. And I almost become more socially isolated. It's weird, but that is true. Okay, so Isaac Newton, for his miracle year, he isolated himself in the countryside at Woolsthorpe. That was a plague year in England at that time to do his work. What else? So basically, if you want to write books, keep on collecting journal things or whatever. What I mean by that is you should have an article of quotes. You should have an article, like I love painting, so I've collected folders of great paintings. I was interested in nutrition, obviously, so I've collected giant lists of information on nutrition. I've been interested in art. Like I said, I collected information on that. Literature, history, religion. So I have files on all these things, so I can very quickly go through my own notes. And I've got tons and tons of files, many thousands of pages of all these things, so I can find my information in my own material very quickly. I've got all these quotes from the Bibles and religious books, philosophy books. Like whenever I read a book, I summarize the book in one of my files somewhere, and I go back to that author. I can find everything fast. That's a big part of why I can crank books out fast. And I've been doing this, ever since I was about 18 years old. I've been a real serious academic student. So I've just accumulated a lot of knowledge. And it's kind of nice now that I'm older that I can put it into books and share it. And, I don't sell that many books. I don't have any ability to market or do any of that stuff. I don't have a lot of social contacts. But I think I'm the best writer in the whole United States. I mean, compare my books to someone else. What are you going to see? I mean, like if you look at McDougall's the best nutrition doctor, but I'm a better writer than him. I'm funnier than him by far, okay? Don't get me wrong. He's a great thinker and he's brilliant, okay? I have a lot of respect for him and I learned a lot from him. But if you had to ask yourself, who's going to explain something in a more fun way? It's me, okay? And then if you ask yourself, most of the other famous ones, they're bullshitting you. They're telling the public to eat omega-3s, all this high-fat stuff. A lot of nonsense, okay? And I can assure you, anything coming out of university is going to be a piece of crap. It's always going to be how to sell drugs, every disease. We don't know what causes it. It's associated with aging. Seems to be partly genetic. Take our pill. They're all stupid. They're a disgrace. I mean, like I said, there hasn't been much improvement in conventional medicine since the 1700s, okay? They're a joke. All they do is lie and sell drugs, and they're pathetic. That's why they never cure anything. All those chronic diseases, they never cure them, ever. And then they claim that they're the standard, okay? That even though they completely suck. Okay, oops, I went back a page. All right, let's see here. So what I wanted for you to be useful is to get, my one book about rhyme, rhetoric, and logic. I talk all about the technique of writing. And basically, imagine you're just talking to an intelligent friend and you want to have fun. How would you explain it to them? That's basically what you do when you write. And a couple tricks are you got to get to the point quickly. Everybody is busy and everybody's sick and tired of BS. So you don't start out your book with a whole bunch of boring front matter. You don't start it out with, any of that kind of stuff. You shouldn't have acknowledgments at the front. You should, right in the beginning, put something good. That's why I'll often put drawings, paintings, quotes, something that I think is high value right at the beginning to send a message to the reader that this is going to be entertaining. This is going to be different. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not some conformist, wimpy, low IQ weasel who's just trying to get a publication. I'm trying to make the best book ever done in the genre. If I only make a book when I think it's going to be the best thing ever written in that genre. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. And it is true, some of my early books, I was figuring out how to do everything. I was figuring out some of the nuance of nutrition, and I was figuring out some of the nuance of how to publish a book. But I got most of that pretty well figured out. I've done so many of them now. And the big new thing with my newer books was the emphasis on illustrations. And also, if you have a video on the internet like YouTube, they could delete me tomorrow, okay? I'm not that popular. Big money hates people like me. Somebody that empowers the pros, somebody who wants Bible-based values to come back so society can be free. No, big money wants reduction of population, and they want everybody to be a bunch of serfs, peasants, and slaves, okay? Easy to control. They want you in an electronic car that they can shut it off whenever they want, crash you into a wall whenever they want, not let it start so they can bill you for speeding tickets. They want you to have a you-know-what type of credit, you-know-what score, all of this stuff to control you like a farm animal, okay? I don't want that. I want freedom, okay? I believe man is created in the image of God and deserves to be considered part divine, and we should do our best for him. And individual rights are the foundation of all other rights, as Ayn Rand would say. I agree with all that stuff. Okay, and it's enshrined in the Constitution that man has God-given rights, and the Declaration of Independence as well. Okay, so now as far as like who reads my books, a lot of smart doctors read my books, and they talk to me and they tell me, and I get a lot of compliments from them, and I sort of listen to that feedback because I know they're just giving me their honest opinion. I've had plenty of them walk out of their way to tell me that they loved my books and some of my videos and stuff. And I know they're a smart audience, and I know they're telling me the truth. So I listen to that. And I sort of see my books as like Gothic cathedrals. Whatever I think is good, I just put it in there. If I think it would make my friend laugh, I will put it in there. If I think it'll help my friend understand something, I put it in there. Okay? I had written books in the past for several different publishing companies, and there were things I did not like my book, Medical Student's Guide to Top Board Scores. First of all, they made me take out the abbreviations. They said, oh no, the foreign audience won't understand that. Then they made me take out almost all the jokes. They go, oh no, the foreign audience won't understand that. And I'm like, you know what? I really don't give a rat's ass about the foreign audience, okay? But they're like, well, we need to sell more books, and we sell a lot of books to foreign audiences, so we want to keep everything kind of clear and simple. And I didn't like that. I wrote another book for some of the medical publishers, and they would force me to make every chapter 3 pages. And I'm like, that doesn't really work, okay? Some topics deserve 3 pages, some deserve 30 pages. I mean, it just depends on the topic, but you have to conform to whatever the publisher wants. The real reason to have a publisher is 2 things. The most important one is they can market the book. So you'll make more money with the book if a publisher markets it, because they know how to get it into all the stores, how to advertise it. All that stuff is valuable. The other thing is they're going to correct all the typos. On my own time, I just don't have enough time to make sure I get every typo. I try to minimize them, but I can't do it without having to add a tremendous amount more time to editing. And it's even a bigger problem if you start having pictures, because you change one little thing, it changes the length of a line that you could knock 100 other distal pictures out of alignment and have to reformat and spend an entire day reformatting the book. That's why I don't do it. Let's see, what else can you learn from this? If you want to learn how to write better, my Rhyme, Rhetoric, and Logic book is good. And I go through all the great writers, and I studied all the great writers too to understand them, and there's some of them who I really loved, and a lot of things, the best, who was the most helpful to me was Arthur Schopenhauer and Ayn Rand. because they just tell it like it is, and they both pay their dues. Schopenhauer could read in 5 languages. Ayn Rand could read in a couple languages, and she was a genius, and she tells the truth. Let's see. No one's ever heard of you, the Grand Inquisitor says, because you suck. And I say, that's not true. I read tons of books. I know what's out there. Most books really do suck. Most books, they waste your time with tons of boring front matter, and then they really don't have much to say. So it's almost like they're trying to hide what they have to say in the middle of the book, so you'll buy it and you'll keep reading. But they try to take 10, 15 pages of information and make it into 300 pages, and they just waste your time. And like Schopenhauer said, if they don't give you something good within the first 2, 3 pages, you might as well throw the book in the garbage can, because the rest of it's going to be a waste of time. A good writer gives you something entertaining or interesting, usually on the first page. And yeah, there's all kinds of little subtle things like, you don't want big bulky paragraphs. That almost screams waste of time. Author doesn't know what they're doing. They're boring. When people want to talk about learning how to write, you want to learn how to write. Watch comedians, give their stand-up routines. A good writer should be entertaining. And think about teachers that were good teachers. They're kind of theatrical. They make it fun. Think about when your parents taught you something. When your dad, my dad would always say to me when I did something stupid, you just failed your instant IQ test. It was always fun when my dad would teach me stuff, and that's the way learning should be. When you learn something that you want to know, it is fun to learn. Public schools kind of train people to think that learning is kind of miserable and it's a big hassle. You take some, Scantron test on something you don't care about, and then you forget it afterwards. But in real life, when you learn how to eat healthier, how to lift weights better, all those types of things, you want to know it. So it's fun to acquire that information. The standard medical textbooks, like I said, all the internal medicine and internal medicine subspecialty textbooks, they're a disgrace. They stink. They're an embarrassment. I have no respect for them. I'm quite familiar with the Ivy League textbooks and the other famous medical centers, and they're all a disgrace. The typical thing they all recommend is the Mediterranean diet, often a high-fat version of the Mediterranean diet. That's ridiculous. That hurts the patient, okay? My books, they're up to date, they're correct, they're focused on key topics, and they're fun. I'm proud of them. They're the best medical books you're going to find. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great medical books written by individuals. And I did make a video on that, like the top 30, top 40 books in medicine. And for different subjects, there's great books in a lot of different things. And so when I see there's a great book, like Richard Moore wrote the best book ever on hypertension. So I don't touch that subject because he's already mastered it. He devoted, 50 years of his career as an MD, PhD researching it. So he's done that. There's nothing else for me to do in that area. Okay, so I pick things where nobody has really done something great on it. Okay, so the Grand Inquisitor says, oh, bullshit. There's some great nutrition doctors out there who are better than you, like Dr. McDougall, and he writes nutrition books. And I'll say, yeah, McDougall's the best, but he wrote a fantastic book, for example, his starch solution, and then his other one on gastrointestinal diseases was pretty good. And I've read his other ones as well. And what he does a great job with it. That is true. But for an internist, the holy grail of health is to open up the coronaries of the heart. And they're then going to say anything that's good for the heart is good for the brain. And that's all nice and it's true. But my goal is a lot higher. My goal is to optimize brain function. The brain is way more complex than the heart, and it's way more fussy than the heart. So to understand the brain, you have to know toxicology, you have to know epidemiology. There's just a lot more to know than talking about the heart, okay? Look at the complexity of my lectures versus those of Caldwell Esselstyn, okay? Caldwell Esselstyn did great research. He deserves a Nobel Prize for the heart. But, he doesn't come anywhere close to my level of explaining pathophysiology, toxicology, etc. Okay? And I also am, trying in my own little small way to do what I can to help save civilization. I know what's going on. We're basically in the middle of the new communist revolution. Okay? The Democratic Party is the American Communist Party, and they want everybody to return to slavery and serfdom. And they're well on their way to accomplishing that. And they might very well accomplish that. And there's really nothing we could do. So it's kind of sad and pathetic. But for what it's worth, I try to let people know, you're the descendants of Western civilization, the greatest civilization in the history of the world. We learned so much from the ancient Greeks, the ancient Roman, from the Bible, from the Renaissance, and some other important historical periods. Why don't we, build on that knowledge and continue to make things better? All of this modernism stuff, it stinks. It's a lie. It's gaslighting from the cow moon East party to just destroy things, okay? Modern art is a joke. It's fake. It's the emperor's new clothes. It's an embarrassment, okay? And almost all the other stuff they say, it's all lies and BS to destroy Western civilization. That's what they want because they know you can't have, slavery in Christianity because it says all men are equal in the eyes of God. So it's obvious that it's not justified. And once you have the role model examples of Jesus Christ and the saints, you're not going to tolerate all this BS about slavery and brutality and cruelty and authoritarianism, okay? So that's why they want to, first priority is get rid of all the Christians, okay? Okay, so what else? And yeah, I had a real unique background in medicine. Not only did I get surgical internship, but I did all kinds of weird things. I even ran an acupuncture clinic at one time, a spinal injection clinic, a whole bunch of stuff. So I just got tons of experience, and I loved anatomy, pathophysiology, biochemistry when I was young, and I was like one of the best students, if not the best in the whole United States. So I had a deep knowledge of these things. I sort of feel like, like Ian Fleming was a perfect person to write James Bond. I'm the perfect person to write about nutrition. And I know that I don't sell that many books on my self-published books, but I know they're the best too, so I'll continue to do them. I see the world a lot like St. Augustine did in this context. He's actually not one of my favorite saints, but I do like what his quote was. He said, wrong is wrong even if everyone's doing it. Right is right even if no one's doing it. So I will continue to teach about Christianity, about Western civilization, about the low-fat vegan diet, and about whatever I think is good for people, okay? Because I want to be the best doctor. I mean, I know I could never be famous. I know I will always be, kind of blocked out from things. Notice that conventional doctors, to my face, they give me tons of compliments. I've had some of the best conventional doctors you could know in my area tell me that I'm a genius, that I'm the only person that really understands disease well. I've had other researchers like Sloop said, out of all the people in the world he's ever met, I have the best understanding of complex pathophysiology, the most accurate, most comprehensive. But nobody invites me ever to speak in front of a conventional medical audience. They never do. Nobody invites me almost everywhere. And then like most of the nutrition community is kind of wimpy, and they don't invite me ever anywhere either. There's very few people that offer me interviews. I pretty much accept all of them that they offer because I know no one else is going to offer them to me. Most of them, they're selling supplements or something, and they're afraid I'll contradict one of their supplements. I would never do that intentionally, but I think that's their rationale because I know a lot of the well-known ones will not interview me, and I think that's why is my guess. Okay, like I said, too, because I have a deep understanding of biochemistry, toxicology, I can see connections between different fields that most people don't know. You don't learn anything about nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology in med school or residency. So part of what I'm saying about being a prolific writer is you have to know a lot of stuff. So I've been studying, religion, history, literature, medicine, nutrition for many years, and I'm very interested in it. Like Goethe had said, in order to learn a complex subject, a man must love it. I love all this stuff. I wish I could make money doing this, but I can't. I can only make money as a conventional doctor in a significant way, so that's why I keep doing it. I got a kid in college and I got a kid in grad school, so I got to pay their tuitions. I feel obligated to do that. Okay, so the Grand Inquisitor says, you certainly do have a different style. Your jokes and rhymes are unprofessional. Okay, and then I said, yeah, thank you very much, Herr Salieri. There's always mediocre scumbags that are always trying to drag you down. And I don't go for that typical stereotype dopey doctor personality. Doctors have to be that way because, most patients that see a doctor are cognitively slow. The audience for this YouTube channel is real smart, motivated people who want to learn. That is not the average patient. The average patient's like 60 plus years old, mentally slow, hopeless, has zero chance of ever being cured because they're too mentally slow and lazy and incurious to ever go back and learn vegan diet and change their habits, okay? So they just get drugged like crazy, surgerized like crazy, sent for tons and tons of tests. All right, so what I'm trying to say is that's the audience that most doctors interact with. That's the audience that the medical system focuses on, taking as much money away as possible from these pathetic old people and then pushing them to a premature death. Okay, so there's not an audience for somebody like me that much. I'm fully aware of it, but I don't have to behave that way, so I can just kind of be myself as much as that's possible. There's certainly plenty of things you can't say in a mainstream location, and there's a limit to what you can say in a book, and I've had some people get pissed off at me for some of my books, but it's because they're jerks. It's not because of anything I did. Let's see. I think I'm doing exactly the right thing that I should be doing, is trying to help people by writing my books. And I do think I should be joking around. I think that's completely appropriate for me. Average people, and other people say, why do I write in such a complicated way? And I'll say it's because I don't write for average people. I write for smart people. Average people don't read. Why should I care about somebody with an average IQ of 100 when I know people at that IQ level will never read one of my books? And not only do most people don't read, they're functional illiterates. Most of my doctor friends don't read. They all say they're busy, they're exhausted, and they do work a lot and they're tired and they're exhausted. Okay? If I look at my male doctor friends, the ones with IQs around 130 probably read about a book a month. 140s maybe 2 books a month. Grand Inquisitor, aren't your books all kind of the same, a bunch of kitsch? No, they're not. Like I said, the average IQ of the public is probably around 90 to 95, whereas, to understand one of my books takes an IQ probably, to really understand it well, an IQ of at least 130, and the complex part's like 140. So 140 is about average for a Harvard graduate. That's a rare audience. I do, have some common themes, of course. Those are the things I'm interested in. These are the things I know. Study skills, cognitive optimization, and then all the other stuff. Literature, history, philosophy, religion, art, nutrition, and health. Pathophysiology. Okay, so Grand Inquisitor, don't you get it? The more you teach, the more books you write, the more YouTube videos you make, the more you will be hated. That's actually true, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's either, be a conformist, wimpy mediocrity, which doesn't fit me, or accept the fact that conventional medicine will hate me more and more. And I think conventional medicine hates me, but I'm just not important enough. I don't have that much influence on the public or society, so they don't bug me too much. And at the few times where I do get feedback from them, it's always "shut up, you scumbag." But it's not. I'm just not that important enough. Somebody who's got millions and millions and millions and millions of views. Like look at Jordan Peterson. Okay. He is favored by the algorithm because look what he tells everybody. He tells everybody, psychiatric drugs are good. The truth is they cause lobotomy. He tells everybody that they should eat meat all the time. That's complete stupid nonsense, but that gets promoted. Somebody like me who says psychiatric drugs cause a lobotomy, so that's going to lead to selling less drugs, that, you shouldn't eat any meat at all. That's going to, see, those things get you kind of blocked, okay? Grand Inquisitor, remember what Ayn Rand said. True scientists are essentially loners. They pursue knowledge for the sake of knowledge. A scientist who discovers knowledge and shares it to the benefit of others is the greatest benefactor of mankind. Such men should be considered heroes, but such men are not regarded as heroes. They are the most hated, blamed, denounced men in so-called humanitarian society. Ayn Rand. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the more a doctor tells the truth, the more likely that doctor will have their medical license taken away from them. That is true. That's been proven over the years in history. The medical system does not like smart doctors that try to improve things. They get their butts in trouble. So I try to, do everything I can, but I don't push it that far. I could push it that far, but I don't see how that would be beneficial. I tell you what you need to know as far as what I can tell you. I've told you, if you watched all my videos, you can see I've explained things to you. If you have the ability to grasp them, I pretty much covered most subjects. Okay, so why do you self-publish? The Grand Inquisitor continues with his questions. Why do you self-publish books that no one will read? Like I said, it's better to write self-published books because the books are better and I can crank them out faster. The way I write a book is I decide something important needs to be said. Then I look at my schedule over the course of the next couple of months and say to myself, do I have time to do this? And then I also say, do I have any distractions that I must attend to? So I try to make sure that I have nothing important going on for, let's say, 3 months in a row. And then every free moment, I dedicate it to the book. And then I just crank the book out. And then other people tell me, why don't you divorce your wife, find a mistress, a new woman, and be happy? And I'm like, it's so difficult to deal with women at my age. I'm 60 years old, okay, that I'll just write my books, because statistically, the odds of me finding a woman I'd be happy with who's single and available and lives near to me is like next to zero. Because that's a lot like people have said stuff to me like that. Like my kid comes up to me and he says, Dad, why are you so happy? Out of all the people in the family, he says, you have the worst life, but you are the happiest person. Why is that? And I'm like, a horse is happy when he runs. I was sort of born to be an academic scholar, so I'm happy when I'm doing that. I just wish I could, not have to work in conventional medicine and still have enough money to pay for all the things I want to pay for. That's why I still do it, because conventional medicine, as stupid as it is, you show up, you generate a bunch of billing codes, you get paid. Whereas on this other stuff, you could write the best book, make the best video, but you don't get, hardly anything for it. So, and like I said too, self-published books are better. If you look at the most famous books in history, most of them have been self-published, and by exiles or authors that were excluded from society in some way. Boethius when he was in prison, Copernicus publishing posthumously, Newton who was secluded and isolated, almost fired from Oxford for being a heretic, Schopenhauer who was a social isolate, Voltaire in exile, Locke in exile, okay? That's where a lot of the best books come from. Machiavelli was in exile. Because an exile author has more perspective a lot of times. So in a sense, I'm a little bit socially exiled. I'm a little bit estranged from my wife. I'm a little bit estranged from conventional medicine. I know I'm right. I know I'm the best at the things that I do. I'm disappointed that society is not more enthusiastic about my work, but I know I'm right, so that's why I continue to do it. And I know too, like the few doctors that I do get to talk to and discuss these things, they all tell me. I work with a lot of people in the neuroscience community. They're like, Pete, you're absolutely right. Your theories are the best. Your lectures are the best. I don't think the journal's going to want that, but it's the best. My theory is a spine disease. My theory is a brain disease. Okay. Let's see. What else? Let's see. Anything else? Like the university systems are a joke. When I hear a guy as a college professor, I kind of like in my mind's eye think he sucks. There's tons of good information buried in the scientific literature, and I've been able to go through it in my free time and figure out lots of things. And lots of discoveries come out of that. When you look at the discovery of the structure of the DNA helix, for example, by Watson and Crick, what they did was they just read the papers on it, and Pritikin had pointed this out. What did Pritikin do? Pritikin just went through the literature intelligently. It's surprising, but almost no one does that. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, I've pretty much talked about all these medical books before, but that's essentially how you do it. You study a subject in great detail from all the different perspectives till you have a deep understanding of it. You try to get some personal experience with it. You try to find somebody else who's got experience with it, and you talk with them. Like when I was trying to understand atherosclerosis, I contacted Sloop, the greatest atherosclerosis researcher in the world. I read all the stuff by all the other ones, including Haveritz, the surgeon's theory, including, William Roberts, all the papers. Plus, I had tons of experience working with vascular disease for many years. So anyways, you know the subject well, and then you figure out, as you read all the literature and books on the subject, and you ask yourself, has anybody else written this? And if no one else has, then you go for it, okay? And you just have to be super intense and focused. Unless you've got a lot of free time, and most of us don't, that's how you generate it. Let's see, what else is there left to say? Well, I'll give you a conversation here with a doctor just to give you an idea of like what it's like with other doctors. So a young lady, this was many years ago when I was young, a lady doctor said to me, she's a little bit older than me, she said, why do you study so much? You don't have to know all that stuff. You don't need to read in all those other fields. All you have to do is follow the standard guidelines and you will make a lot of money. And then she said, practicing medicine is like selling hot dogs. You sell more hot dogs, you make more money. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, selling hot dogs? Are you fucking kidding me? I didn't give up my whole life so I could sell hot dogs. I could do anything academically. I could have gone into any field and done anything I wanted. There's no limits on my academic ability. If I just wanted money, I would have gone into business, become a CEO or something. I chose medicine because I knew I had a great mind for it, and I would try to become great, in medical science. I had a sense of mission every day that made me jump out of bed in the morning and want to achieve things, okay? So I never had that materialistic thing. And that's the other thing too. People ask me, like I've had people from, American culture, other cultures tell me, why do you have to talk about philosophy and religion and all this stuff? I'm like, because that's what inspired me to become great. And it's sort of like, I'm going to turn my back on that? No way. And I also think the only thing that could save the United States, the only thing that could save healthcare is to return to Bible-based values, because the current system has absolute contempt for the patient, considers them an atheistic Darwin, talking primate monkey with no intrinsic rights. And as long as you think that way, there's always going to be tons more money, orders of magnitude more money in selling drugs and surgeries and imaging tests than there is going to be in actually helping the person. And so I've also studied, Christianity's inspired the best creative geniuses ever in the history of the world. Don't get me wrong, there's been some that have been not outside of it, but you look at, Isaac Newton, you look at all the great art, the great literature, that inspires it more than anything else. So I want to be part of that, okay? If the contemporary society doesn't appreciate me, that's just because they're ignoramuses, but I want to be part of the best in the historical tradition. I'm not, and also that lady, she said to me, "You're such a typical man, always trying to be a show off. I don't care about that. I just want to make money and survive." And I was like, "You don't understand me. I'm not just trying to look good. I'm trying to become great. And someday I will be." And I actually ran into her at a meeting, and she's kind of a wealthy woman. Also, I said to her at the time, I said, "You're a beautiful woman. You could easily get some guy to pay your bills. To you, medicine is a joke, a convenient way to make money. But for me, no one will ever pay my bills. And, I wanted to be great, not just make money." All right. And so actually, I knew another lady radiologist in her early 60s. This is kind of typical medical thinking here. And she told me she'd just gotten a cardiac pacemaker. I told her she was too young to have all these problems. She's like in her early 60s. And I told her she should, quit her cardiologist, get a new cardiologist, become a vegan. She's like, "Oh no, my cardiologist is the best in the city. He's very prestigious. He works at the best medical center." And I'm like, well, pretty soon, out of all the patients in the graveyard, you'll have the most prestigious cardiologist. The reason I went through that little line is most of the big shots I've learned in medicine. My father told me this many years ago. Most of the big shots in conventional medicine are phonies, okay? They just have the right social skills or networking skills to get themselves like a bunch of papers. They put their name on a bunch of papers that are written by their departments, not necessarily by them. And they don't really know much, and they put on this big show, but they really don't help that many patients. So anyways, I didn't want to be a phony like that. I wanted to be somebody who really tried to help patients, even though, you can't help a patient if they don't want to learn. Let's see what else. So the Grand Inquisitor, he makes a prediction. He says, "No one will ever read your books. No one will ever watch your videos. You will be deleted from history and no one will care." And I said, I have honored the promise to my mother that I would try to become a great doctor when I said I would. And at the last judgment, God will ask you, "Are you a hypocrite like Hippocrates or a hypocrite?" And I can look him in the eye and said I did the best I could. So anyways, that's kind of my philosophical point of view for why I write, and Orwell had written up all about that. But that's basically it. Learn your thing well. You have to be excited and interested in it, and then you have to totally narrow your focus and crank it out. And you probably have to give up other social things, but I didn't really have that much other social stuff going on anyway, so it wasn't much to give up. And it seems better than the alternative. A lot of old intellectual guys like to write, and I enjoy it. I just wish I had more time for it. So anyways, I hope that was helpful.